County Board of Elections for Wednesday, March 5th, 2025. Thank you, folks who are in the audience today. As I'm sure most of you know, we do have a guest book, and that is our official record of attendance. If you wouldn't mind signing it before you leave today, I'd appreciate it. Thanks very much. I understand that we have at least one virtual participant, one person online. We do stream all our meetings. You don't have to come all the way downtown to see and hear what we're working on. But we do appreciate those who participate in person very well, as well as those who participate virtually. Fairly brief agenda today, folks. We'll see how quickly we can get through it. The first item is the approval of agenda, and without objection, we will approve the agenda for today's meeting. Hearing none, the agenda is approved. All righty. Could you please pass over the latest and greatest? Oh, boy. We have been busy. We love one another so much that we make a point of getting together frequently. We do have minutes from the meetings of Tuesday, February 11th and Tuesday, February 18th pending. I hope everyone has had a chance to give those minutes the once over twice. And without objection, we will approve the minutes of Tuesday, February 11th. And hearing none, those minutes are approved. Similarly, without objection, we will approve the minutes of Tuesday, February the 18th. And hearing no objection, those minutes are approved. Thanks, everybody. The next item on the agenda is office updates. I believe there are one or two. Director Duncan.
Yes, I just have a few. We've been meeting regularly, so that's been keeping us up to date. I wanted to let you all know that I'm doing another tour with John Nose at the end of the month to Craven County to present on our Helene response to their district meeting. And then my second update was that Nagy Fox wanted me to share that her husband is having significant surgery, and it actually happened already, and it went very well. So he is back at home and doing well, but Nagy won't be back until April 1st. So she'll be home taking care of him in that time, but she wanted to share that everything is going very well.
Thank you.
Yes.
When was the tour, Corinne?
The tour is the 21st, March 21st.
That's it on office updates?
That's it.
All righty.
Oh,
Well,
wait, I do have one other update. So we had our presentation to the county manager, to Averill. All of the general government presented budget. We didn't get necessarily feedback on those budgets at that time, but she heard all of our requests. So we're at that stage now. Once she reviews that, if there are any changes, I will bring those back to the board.
all right, thank you. Anyone have any questions?
Is this where we might want to acknowledge Corinne and her, what happened?
I'll second that
nationally?
motion. Wasn't that wonderful? Wasn't it wonderful to see a national publication recognize our director? And the thing is, you know, I called her up, like, Corinne, this is amazing. This is amazing. And I could tell Corinne felt a little bad about it. She says, this isn't just me.
It
I
isn't.
couldn't have done this by myself. I have all this staff. I've got all these other departments in the county who pitched in and made that election go smoothly. And she's right. But someone had to lead that effort.
Sure.
And we
Someone
deeply
has to have
appreciate
the
that
picture.
leadership. Yeah, some of them. Someone's got to have the shoes, right?
Yeah.
It's the shoes. The shoes. But Corinne, congratulations. It's richly deserved, and it reflects so well on our community. It's the kind of shot in the arm that I really appreciate receiving these days.
Yeah, I really liked how they made it 3 people from Asheville, because it kept telling that story of all the people who had to come together to make things work, and we did. And I love that. We did it.
Yes, we did. Thank you. It was truly a team effort. Thank you, Sally.
Sure.
That, let's make sure we mention it at the next meeting as well.
Every meeting.
I don't mind being a broken record on such wonderful news. And from that wonderful bit of happiness, we will move to the next agenda item, which is the elections facilities update. How to put it? Mary Ann Brain and I yesterday spent time with the county manager, assistant county manager, 2 county commissioners. Corrine was with us, and good old Scott Metcalf, the man who is doing his best to make a silk purse out of a sow's ear. I've got to tell you that we were hoping for, I don't know, some exchange of views that might result in movement, some change, and I don't think that we succeeded at that. But I was grateful to have the county manager listen, especially to our director, about the way the process worked. I think that was beneficial. It might not be beneficial for this project, but I think it will be beneficial for the county going forward. And I'm praying that that's the case. But right now, it is very clear that the county expects the Board of Elections to move 35 Woodfin Street. And the date has been given. It is the week of April 28th. April 28th is a Monday. And this board needs to determine what it wants to do. And so we've got this item on the agenda today to have one of our discussions and figure out what makes the most sense for this board going forward under the circumstances that we're now confronting. And so I'd like to open the floor to discussion and questions, and I'd like Director Duncan to feel very free to participate in this, because her information, her knowledge, and her experience are going to be key to the success of whatever comes next. It just as with the post-Helene and the election and all that, it's going to be her leadership that we all depend on to make things work, whatever set of circumstances we're given. So, yeah, please feel free to pipe in. And I'm wondering if you have any remarks you'd like to use to preface the whole conversation.
I do. I
Good.
have a whole page
Oh, okay.
what I think, so you'll have to bear with me. And I hope that it spurs conversation. I feel that this board has been very good at having productive conversations, even on very hard topics. So I think that is what we will see today also. So Jake is correct. We had a meeting yesterday that had a bunch of people at the table that I think needed to be there. After the meeting, I did speak with staff, and it's my opinion that it's time to just accept this change and move to 35 Woodfin. I think that we, the staff, the board, our stakeholders, we did our best to communicate our concerns, and I'm really appreciative of everyone who did, because that's something that's coming out of this whole situation that I think will be positive, that we can really identify things that we need to have better communication about, and how to do it, and who the players are, and those types of things. It's definitely been frustrating that it took so much effort to get this to this point, but it was very important that we let our concerns known to the right people, and it's actually our responsibility to do that. So I'm happy that we've done this now and all along. And I'm thankful for the meeting between, as Jake described, Jake, Mary Ann, Avril, Tim, the 2 commissioners, Al Whitesides and Terry Wells and Scott Metcalf. I think that meeting also happened because so many voices said, hey, we still have concerns. Things aren't settled here. And so thanks for making that happen. From those communications, as Jake alluded to, it is clear to me that both management and the commissioners feel that moving our operation is necessary to meet the goals of making space for affordable housing and then also using county space more efficiently. I do worry about whether county departments will thrive in the 35 Woodfin environment. But I do know that we'll work together. I know all of those department heads in that building, and we already work well together. We'll work just fine when we are roommates. I think that housing is and good use of space are worthy goals, and I also know that it is within county management, the county commissioner's power to do that. Yesterday at the meeting, I did make sure to bring up that all of our concerns were brought up. Some of them came up naturally, which was fantastic, and if they didn't, I brought them up. We were told that the concerns would be addressed and that Avril supported us. I still feel that the concerns that I brought up along the way at the beginning weren't adequately heard, but I'm hopeful that this exercise will help that not happen in the future. And it is stressful having to rethink operations, especially with the uncertainty of all of the law changes that we have coming at us, and that don't show any evidence of slowing down. But we can do it. We have a great team. We can figure it out. Deciding to move to 35 Woodfin will also give us the clarity of direction that we need for staff to just move on and get our jobs done before the municipal election comes. We're running out of time, and we need to get ourselves in order, especially with so much uncertainty about how things will work over there. Acknowledging that there need to be improvements in our communication going forward, I want to make sure that we remember how the county has been supportive. And I value the relationship very much. As you know, elections is really unique in that we have a independent structure with the board. The director is appointed. They're kind of outside of the county structure. Yet the commissioners fund us. So we have this balance that we're constantly doing. But they have shown support in, from what I hear, in the past of the hiring process that happened for my position. That was a good partnership. We moved out of 77 McDowell, which was a building that we shouldn't have been in the first place. There was support for expanding positions in our department, and positions are very competitive in the county, and we've been able to expand that in elections. We were also supported in acquiring the express vote equipment, which I am so thankful that we had through the hurricane. And then most recently, Avril's clear directive during Helene, in the aftermath of Helene, was of course life safety first, but it was very clear that elections was the next priority. And that goes to what we were talking about earlier of it takes a lot of people to make sure that we get through situations like that. And we did. We had very strong support from the county. So 35 Woodfin definitely still has the challenges that we have identified. Those don't go away. We have to figure those out, and we need to secure support to figure those out. But I think that we can work through those, and we can use this experience to improve upon communications, especially since we know that the warehouse is going to, is scheduled for demolition, so we have to move that out to Canoe Lane. That's a whole project that hasn't hasn't even started design. So I think there's a whole opportunity there to have better communication on that. And we know a lot more about what's needed now. And so I think identifying those improvements, and I do have a list of those kind of very, very concrete things that we need to do for 35 Woodfin, but also what we need to do to have better communication when we consider the next move is very important. But balancing, doing the balancing act that we have to do, I think that my recommendation is to move to 35 Woodfin to keep the relationship that we have with the county.
I just had one. Were you done? I just had one question. I haven't been over there, so I don't really know what it looks like apart from the, not really a blueprint, but the sketch. But I noticed they had the sketch in the package of materials that was submitted to the commissioners last night, so I guess it's a public document. Some of the things I heard about the office space over there kind of concerned me, and that was, and I guess I've been focused on this since the beginning, but just the privacy that's afforded to the employees. And if I remember this correctly, for the cubicle spaces, they talked about 5-foot barriers, and I don't know what those are made out of. I guess plastic or fiberglass or something like that. And I don't know if the work is done over there, the construction work and that sort of thing. I guess my only question is, and this is kind of not a specific question, but is there any way that there can be, well, I'm sure you've talked to your staff about it, but is there any way that there can be work done at 35 Woodfin to make those places as workable as possible? Or have they already got the work done and, it is what it is?
So for the actual construction part of the third floor where our main offices are is complete. I don't see more construction happening there. The lobby is not done downstairs, and the boardroom area is not complete. We have asked for some modifications. We thought maybe we could move part of the cubicle area that's downstairs in the basement, the large cubicle area, and have it switch to training, and that doesn't seem to be going anywhere. But I think that there is room for those kind of things.
Are those kind of the things that are on your list to make it work? What's on your list?
So what I have on my list is that now that we have seen the space, and on Thursday I'm actually meeting with the mover to do actual measurements of things. So I think that will help. Hopefully, the initial drawings is what made me worry about things fitting, and so we're going to make sure that those worries are valid. But I don't see a place where we are able to issue photo IDs right now.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to figure out that. We have the transfer station that we where we vote at the office. We need a space for that. We would need to find an alternative voting location for the municipalities, which I think can be 50 Cox Avenue right now, but that's not
Not for
forever.
long.
Yes, we could do it one cycle and then we have to find another location. We also, I think that we can give the boardroom setup a try the way that it is, but I have concerns about how that works. And so I would want some reassurance that we could adjust that if needed. Another one of the space things that I'm worried about is the scanning, where the 950 goes, and electionware and storage. I'm not sure that everything's going to fit there, so we have to come up with a solution there. And then I need to make sure that I've had two versions of this, that we have control over badge access, which is what we have right now. I also was told that we won't have that control, that it'll have to go through. So I want to make sure that we have badge access.
Okay, the county manager told us yesterday that you would.
Yes.
I would take that to the bank. And anyone who says otherwise, I would simply send them to the county manager for clarification.
And then my last item is better communication. So, especially identifying these kind of big ticket items that we want to have extra board involvement in. I think how we do the budget process is a really good example of how we kind of have a lot of back and forth communication. We have deadlines. We have, we have a long-term plan of how that all works. So that could be a model for how we have better communication on things like this.
You could also point out the model that you have developed and implemented here for the consideration of early voting plans, where we're getting input from the community, from the Engage portal. And it takes a long time, takes much longer than it used to, but it yields a vastly superior product. And that is the way we do business here. We include people. We want to hear people's perspectives because we learn. And with more information, there's a really good chance that we're going to end up with a better process and a better product. And we just want to send that up the chain, folks. We want everybody working that way. So those were 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 needs. Some of them are compelling. I mean, we can't do anything without a photo ID desk. So that's something that simply has to be solved. We have a legal requirement to provide those photo IDs, and we can't send everybody, all over the place looking for them. We got to have it right at our facility. Sally Stein, do you have a question, comment?
Yeah, I didn't hear on your list the other part around candidate filing. What the plan is for that.
So that one does feel more solvable to me. So the room, what we were hoping is that the room at the front area, I don't know how to identify things on here.
In the lobby.
It's in the lobby. It's like a front room that we have for elections. We were hoping that small municipal filing could happen in there, photo ID, and have the 2 workspaces.
Okay.
But I don't see that working out.
All right, so that's kind of that's in that, you kind of included that with regard to the photo ID piece.
Yes, so the I feel like, well, we have to decide which one is going where.
Okay.
But photo ID has to be in the lobby.
Right.
So we have to find a space for it there.
Right. One of the county's priorities in the 35 Woodfin project is to have that be a quote-unquote one-stop shop. So if there's business you need to do with the county, whether it's tax or elections, what have you, you just come down to 35 Woodfin. And you are supposed to receive that service in the lobby. And Commissioner Whitesides was good. He asked about the signage.
Yeah.
He asked about the signage because that lobby is, in a word, confusing.
And small now.
Right. It has been shrunken because the space has been partitioned off for different departments, different functions. But having photo ID right there where the customers come in is just something that we're going to have to figure out before April 28th. There is as much urgency as ever behind this. And just so y'all know, Election Services is the last group that is slated to move. This move is starting this month, later this month. So I'm guessing that in the course of moving groups into 35 Woodfin, those who are working on the build-out are going to see opportunities to address some of
Thinking that too.
the needs that Corrine has articulated. Because they know that without those needs being addressed, are moving over there's a problem. And I just hope that urgency is understood. We'll see. Well, thank you for that information. Colleagues, questions, comments, reactions, moans, sighs?
Unhappy faces.
Okay, I'll start.
Thank you, Mary Ann.
I'm impressed that our director can be as positive as she is, as willing to cooperate as she is, considering the fact that I don't believe that the county has listened at all. I don't think that that was a priority, and I think anything that we brought up since then has just been waved aside. Because there's, as Jake said, there's some very serious issues here that have to do with our legal responsibilities as far as photo ID, the things that we need to provide. And I did not feel like that they received any honest consideration. It was simply, okay, we hear you, and we're going to do it this way, which disappointed me greatly. Jake and I did stay for the
Commissioner's briefing.
commissioner's briefing. And in spite of the fact that we sent a formal resolution to the commissioners, we sent a formal resolution to the county manager, no response was made in that meeting at all. So this board has been completely disregarded, and I don't think our director was listened to in the process. Otherwise, these concerns wouldn't be cropping up now. We could have addressed them, from what I hear, a couple of years ago. And in spite of that, I did receive an apology yesterday for the fact that our board was not, matter of fact, twice, that our board was not included, but it was followed by a but. We're too far into this. So the needs of our staff, I'm concerned when, although I know they're all willing and they'll all work hard, the toll that I believe it's going to take on morale and the changes in our policy as far as our work policies, I think are going to be difficult at best. And I don't think they should have to deal with that. The reasons that we've been given for why we can't stay here in the interim, to me, do not make sense. The timelines do not jive. Moving a department here that doesn't have to move until early 2027, that doesn't seem reasonable. And the idea that there isn't any other place in any county building where that department could be moved also doesn't make any sense to me. So, like I said, I appreciate the fact that you are so willing to be cooperative. I know you like the ability to work with other departments, which we all want that. Mm-hmm. We all have every reason to want that. Mm-hmm. But I'm extremely disappointed, and I don't honestly think that what we have put forward has been considered. So I'll let the rest of you voice your opinions.
Ms. Brain, I want to thank you for all the time and effort you've devoted to this. I enjoy working with you a great deal, but I especially appreciate the intense interest that you have had in this and your desire to make things work as well as possible for everyone.
I think our request was reasonable, that we could remain here temporarily until an actual alternative that is suitable for this department is determined.
Yeah.
Whether that be when we move out to Canoe Lane with the entire election services, or whether we find some other location, or whether, this building is suitable for the time being. I mean, there are other options, but we're not being afforded any other option.
That's correct. We are being
So
told that 35
There's no
Woodfin
compromise,
is the
okay.
ultimate destination. And not to distract anyone from our conversation, But I learned yesterday at the briefing, they're not calling it Canoe Lane. They're calling it 2945 Riverside Drive.
Yeah, I saw
So
that. I was wondering
if you
that
see
was
2945 Riverside
That's it.
Drive, think
Canoe Lane. Yeah.
Anyone else have any observations, questions, comments?
This is the end of the road. And I think Corinne makes a good point that the county has been helpful to the Board of Elections, and that doing anything more is just going to irritate and create a lot of friction and make it difficult for Corinne and the staff going forward. That's it. I really don't see any other option at this point, given who was at that meeting. Yes, was it yesterday you said? Given
Yeah,
who was at
yeah.
the meeting yesterday, you had the commissioners, 2 commissioners, you had Scott, you had the county manager. I'm naturally a pessimist, but I can't think of anything that that looks like a viable option.
Well, and understand that the commissioners were aware of concerns that this board has and issues that have been raised, but it became very clear during that briefing that the commissioners were foursquare behind this plan. I do know that the commissioners had received comments from members of the community about this. And let me take this opportunity to thank members of the community for caring and for commenting. We love you. Thank you so much for coming to our meetings and caring about the people who do this work. You guys are great. And there were a lot of people at the meeting last night. I saw them waiting to go in. I mean, Mary Ann and I left. There's a ton of interest in the community on this, and eyes will be on us. We know eyes are on us regardless, but in the wake of the move, the scrutiny will be that much more intense. Mr. Aceto, I so want to hear what's on your mind, and you look so eager to share with us.
Very simple. I think we should fight them to the last Ukrainian.
Careful, that might be a couple days.
Yeah, really.
That's, yeah. You know,
Right to the last Ukraine.
yeah.
I'm so glad you made it back.
This is an interesting problem to solve. It's a Rubik's Cube. The statute that the county commissioners must contend with is simply says that the respective boards of county commissioners, 163-37, respective boards of county commissioners shall appropriate reasonable and adequate funds necessary for the legal functions of the county board of elections. Doesn't say anything about facilities, it says funds. And it talks about the legal functions of the board.
Right.
So I'm not through unpacking this in my mind, but I think that, part of it, as a board, what are we responsible for? We have to, first of all, translate that statute into something that equates a specific action. So we've been talking about whether this facility is adequate or not. We're not, we can't use the language of the statute. And so it's hard for us to hold the county commissioners to a particular standard. Thinking about going forward, when we express to the county commissioners, what does this board need in order to legally function, we have to think about using their language. And I think if I've learned anything, is that the language of facilities, that we don't really speak it. We're at a complete disadvantage. It's like we're going to a foreign country, and they can talk circles around us because we don't speak the language. But that's not the language of the statute either. So we have to find a translation. Second of all, this is really about how do we govern ourselves going forward. But it's our problem as a board. So we have to come up with and interpret these things in a way that's meaningful and persuasive. And I see we're pretty far from doing that. I mean, it's good that we've been challenged with it, but we got a ways to go to deal with that. Second, as we go into this move, we talk kind of half jokingly about the "I told you so" factor. So, in other words, how do we hold both sides accountable to the consequences of the decision, and how do we relate the whatever operational change occurs to that decision, so that if there is another bite at this, that now we have a way that this board or some future board more likely has a way to come back and express themselves and turn this funding language into something that's practical and operational. And that's a huge challenge. We've never had to consider it. So going forward, part of it over the summer and in the next few months is a strategy that adequately assesses what's the impact on our operations. For two reasons. One is so that we can make the right changes and make the right adjustments, and not lose what's been painstakingly built here over the past few years. And and second of all, we need to be able to to explain causes and effects. You did X, you got Y. You happy with that? Or you did X and it turned out just fine, thank you. I hope to get to report a lot of those.
Yeah, to turn out fine.
And that, hey, all turned out really well. If anybody can pull it off, this staff can do it. What a gift. They can do it. But as far as what does the board do, we've got to come up with a language to understand how our operations have been changed and affected by this move in a very specific way, and be able to articulate that for good or for bad. This turned out well. Scared us to death, turned out great. This was exactly what we told you would happen. So what are we going to do? And then we have to go to the next step, which is we have to be able to explain it in terms of budgeting and planning, because that's the language of the statute. It never uses the word facilities.
Thank you.
And we don't speak facility anyway.
It doesn't. No, as you're making those remarks, it occurred to me that you're looking at this rather abstract concept of the budget, funds. And you're looking for something, if you'll pardon the pun, more concrete.
Yes, of course.
But as I reviewed the law, I had the same questions. And then when I was trying to figure out, okay, what about other counties? How do they do it? And I went online to the state board website, and I pulled the page where you have the link to all 100 county boards of elections. I started to click on the links. Takes you right to the map. Oh my, look at that. Catawba's got a standalone facility. Oh, look, Henderson's got a standalone facility. Oh, look. It's not unusual for boards of elections to be housed separately. Understand, there are many instances where they share space, especially in old county courthouses. And like, I'm thinking, who was it, Forsyth? They got a big old building in Winston-Salem or something. They got a bunch of government offices there. But a place like Catawba built a government complex, different buildings. It's really cool when you use the links and you see what other jurisdictions have. But sure enough, elections has its own building. I encourage everyone, or anyone who's interested, the state board makes it really easy. There is an address link for every single one of them. The map pops right up. You zoom in, you can see what it is.
Jake, you make a stunning point there.
Tell me.
And that is, I'm going back and thinking about how Wetzel County and the various county agencies that we did facilities planning, and going back to the 80s, and there was the business community and others were complaining because everything was so fragmented. You went here for one kind of permit, you went across the street for another permit, and then you had to go back because they wanted a piece, because the guys over here on one side of the town wanted a piece of paper from the people on the other side of town. And it was very frustrating. So the mantra, the magic words that were spoken in response to that were one stop, one stop, one stop. And now I'm realizing that chicken has come home to roost.
Yeah.
And somebody thinks they're doing us a favor by doing the community a favor by a one-stop facility. And careful what you wish for. And I think that this may be the source of the commissioner's stubbornness on this and unwillingness to consider that elections ought to be peeled off, is because people have been whispering one stop in their ears for 25 years or longer. So now you get it. Say, careful what you wish for.
Well, I'll tell you, in the development arena, having that one stop has got to be beneficial for those who are working in that space.
But then extending it to every
I-
county function.
Well,
I mean,
if it's
nobody
good
asked them
here,
to
it'll
do
be good
that.
everywhere.
And
but
or
there
you
you
have
go.
the right planning for that one stop. Which
So, it's a whole lot of square pegs in one big round hole. So, anyway, so that's part of our thinking going forward. We have some leadership issues here, and I wouldn't want to push that off on the commissioners. We have to think about our own leadership issue, and we need to make. First of all, we need to make leadership adjustments. Not that we've failed; we haven't. We're just being confronted with challenges, and we have to be creative.
Right.
And we start with the law, so we always do, and apply it to our circumstances, which is often difficult, and begin to think through the rhetoric that's brought this planning result, which I think a big piece is just as simple as somebody wants a one-stop government. But I noticed this too, Jake. We were going through California, and I noticed the Board of Elections in California counties and cities was sitting in a little building off, next to Highway 101, and so people have gone full circle on this. So again, put a bookmark by that. There will be an opportunity to reconsider. Planning comes in waves; it comes in cycles. As people come and go, and they bring their experience from other cities and towns, and why are you doing it this way? There will come an opportunity to speak into it. But meanwhile, let's figure out, how do we benchmark where we were when we left this part of Woodfin, and benchmark what happened to our functionality and our service to our stakeholders, and how it changes. And what are you going to count? What are you going to measure? What are you going to keep track of? Is it statistical? Is it this? Is it that? How really are we going to assess this and assess the consequences of it in a way that's helpful, and not to create division or some a basis to criticize people, but just how do we helpfully assess what we do, what works about it, how it changes, if at all. Because I'm sure there's opportunities in here to introduce some things that we haven't done before.
Right.
So, all I know to do is create that burden for you. I'm not really sure how to carry it at this point, but that's kind of what I'm thinking is, how do we assess it? How do we measure it? What things are we going to measure? And then to be able to come back with an assessment of our functionality. How has it changed? Has it improved? Has it deteriorated? And how do you express that? And then we come back to the law, which talks about adequate funding.
Reasonable and adequate.
Reasonable and adequate.
Yeah.
Steve, I deeply appreciate your comments, because I see what you're driving at is real accountability. And that's one of the difficulties we have had in this whole 35 Woodfin thing. Who's in charge? Who's making the decision? Who's involved in making the decision even? And we've been getting this. I like the idea of measuring things and documenting things because we're going to want to make some assessment on how this has affected our operation. And I agree with you. We're going to learn from it. One of the things that we do all the time is continuous process improvement. We find a way to do the work that's required more effectively, more accurately, more swiftly. This is going to be part and parcel of that.
Sure, and the scary part is that we figured out how to talk ourselves into believing that we're improving. Not to detract from it, but how are we measuring it? What are we, what really matters? When we started this conversation, when we were talking about the facility, was, well, how do we know what really matters when we're looking at a facility? I mean, these are leadership pieces, and you all are very well equipped to handle it. And you've all brought gifts to this thing. And just I look at your resume and where you've been and what you've done. You're perfect. It will be a joyful adventure.
That's a quote. Joyful adventure.
I admire your perspective and applaud your outlook.
My turn?
Please.
Yep.
So I'm very disappointed and discouraged. Like Mary Ann spoke, I couldn't have said it better than what Mary Ann did. I also hear what you're saying about where you are and where the staff is with this. I presume that the staff is pretty much where you are with this now. It's not just you speaking, that you're speaking for the staff as well. I trust you on that. I know that at some point you have to just get on with life, and that may be where we are. I love the concept, and you guys do this so well already, is the continuous quality improvement and defining a few items that you're going to track. And hopefully that's not real onerous to do. I think that'll come pretty naturally, frankly. I mean, we've got a lot of information about what our concerns are now, and then taking some of those and making those into some goals, I think, would be a fairly easy part. And if you need some board input on that, I'm glad to be there with that. So even though I'd like to fight like hell, part of me also really hears what y'all are saying. I really also want to say thank you to everyone in the public. There's part of me that says, let's just get it out to the public and let Asheville watchdogs take this sucker and let them do it, and let the commissioners really be inundated. But at what expense? The old, is the juice worth the squeeze here? At what expense is it to the staff and to Corinne? And that's always a balancing act. I sure wish we had known a lot more about this a lot sooner. I trust that you were giving the input that you were asked to give, and that probably it fell on deaf ears in many ways. And now, I am a little concerned when you said, as you were giving your thoughts, Corinne, you said something about that you told Avril about your concerns, and she's supportive of us. So I guess I wonder in that way, what do you mean? Is that, so if we need more space downstairs, is she going to be supportive of that? What do you see there?
So that was from the meeting yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
And that is what I was told. And there is someone from management here who can speak to that. That is also why I gave the long list of here are the things that we have been supported in the past. But I do share that same feeling of, well, we've been asking for these little, they
Right.
seem like little things that seem reasonable.
And they haven't, right.
Yes, and so.
But we don't know whether Avril is aware of all of that, and now she is, right? Is that a different, is that different?
She is aware of all of these, yes.
Yes, okay, now.
Now, and at least a week ago, I gave
But
these to her.
6 months ago, no,
Correct. No, well, I don't know. I don't know what.
she knew, but
yes.
from what you can gather, it didn't necessarily get to Avril earlier.
Yeah,
Okay.
yes, I don't know the answer to that.
What do you need from us right now? What can we do to lighten your load, Corinne?
Well, I'm a data person.
Mm-hmm.
I love the data. In our business plan, we have lots of metrics, but they don't talk about business, facilities. Because that's something that's
The language we don't speak.
and hopefully infrequent and
But we're
all
about
of
to
those
learn.
things. I think this would be a good strategy and innovation project. So that's a department that we have in the county who tackles kind of process improvement. They are the people who helped us with the election night check-in, and that was very, step-by-step process, taking time, timing things and whatnot. Some small things that pop into my head are timing photo ID processing. I think that could, that's something that we could time. I think we have lots of data on how long board meetings take already, so we could do comparisons there. There's some things that are popping to my mind, so I really think that's important. And something that we're going to have to do over time, and I think Steve's right, sometime eventually, because we also complain about moving all the time, but we have this stress about 35 Woodfin being permanent. Well, that hasn't been yes, and it actually wasn't my impression that was the plan until recently.
Until yesterday.
I heard something else about building a new structure in that parking lot, but things change all the time, and that's part of the communication problems that we've been having. So I think that's a fantastic idea.
Well, Mr.
we're-
Quinn, this is my last word. When I say it's a leadership issue, I'm not talking about the commissioners. I'm talking about us. And that it's our leadership opportunity. Again, we have not failed, but this is our leadership opportunity. We pick it up, we generate these, we begin to better articulate what are we doing, why, how do we measure it, what matters about it, what does compliance with this nice green book mean, what are the steps, how do you measure whether you're in compliance with the green book, what are we counting, what are we looking at? It's our leadership issue. It's not the county commissioners. If we do our job well, then I think that will reflect very well on how they do their job. But in the first instance, it's up to us. We've been kind of blindsided here. We've been blindsided before. Got blindsided on September 26th. Mm-hmm. We're pretty good at blindside. So we'll get at it. Is there specific action that you need us to take, like a resolution or something, or can we just sit here kind of passively and mumble and move on to the next thing, or what do you need?
Well, first, there's also immediate opportunity with the warehouse. That's very clear, so we can start taking data there because we have time still. Right now, we only have a month here of data collecting, but the warehouse is a very good
Yeah,
opportunity.
we need baselines.
Oh, gotcha. I
We
understand
really
what
need
you're
some
saying.
baselines.
Yes, and doing the same when we move over and identifying those is great. I'm actually not sure about actions, but something in support of.
Moving.
Well, I'm not surprised you're not sure because you've pretty much been told there aren't any actions.
Yeah,
But I do have one suggestion.
please, Ms. Brain.
I have been impressed with Corinne and Victoria and how they have worked very hard to be cooperative with the county on our budget, and I think it's time now to reconsider it because now we are facing a great deal of additional expense. The space is going to create a situation where it's entirely possible we're going to need additional people. When we move ballots around in this location, it's our people that are here, our people that are moving them, our people moving them, not through other areas. We may have to have additional staff because we're going to have 2 people to do those things in that location, which is going to mean, going back to the statute, additional reasonable and adequate funds necessary for the legal obligations. And the legal obligations are to maintain the security of these ballots. And that to me seems like a nightmare in that building because you're passing through so many other departments that I understand might be one step if you have planning and permitting, and all of those work well together. We're not one of those that works in that. We have no reason to be right in the middle of those. And yet we're going to have to be moving through them to get back and forth to areas assigned. So I think we should reevaluate our budget request, because you actually cut your budget to help the county. And we're not even sure what this move is going to cost us in additional equipment that won't fit there.
Your observation is a great follow-on to Mr. Aceto's comments, because we're going to need data. And, you know, I believe that there could well be additional expenses that are wholly attributable to the fact that we're at 35 Woodfin and not at 59
I do too.
Woodfin Place. And those need to be identified, they need to be well documented, and they need to be shared, not only with the county manager, but with the county commissioners, so that they understand all the ramifications of the move. I don't think there's full understanding of all the ramifications of the move, and I appreciate you putting the spotlight on this one dimension. I believe that technical staff has been working very hard to make sure that the security within the building and IT security is strong. But you're talking about something else that a lot of folks simply are not familiar with or aware of, and that is the challenges that we have with custody of control on documents when we move them through open spaces, because they're very sensitive documents and we can't afford to misplace one of them.
Nope. The first time we misplace one, then we're going to be getting a public question of what are you doing with these ballots?
Right.
Why are you moving them from one place to the other instead of keeping them in your department? Well, we can't keep them in our department because we don't have space in any one area to either store them or to work with them. We have to take them from one to the other and then take them back. So I think we should make a consideration in what we
Oh, yeah.
might have to do with
Because
budget.
what you're pointing to are risks that need to be mitigated, and there are steps we can take to mitigate those risks, but they entail additional expenses. Mr.
How
Aceto,
do you
did
measure success at maintaining ballot security over space and time?
Well, we can't document the procedures that we have here, as far as, you know, what we do with them, where they're taken once we finish with them. Do we have to
Well-
pass through any open spaces, which we don't?
Well, there is also the fact that we audit every single election, and we have to explain every single discrepancy. And so,
If there are more of those.
yes, that will always happen,
Mm-hmm.
and we can compare those.
And where are we in the budget process for this next year? Is there a place where we can start talking to the county right away
Well,
about
that's what I was
what this
wondering,
might
because you just
be?
submitted
Yeah,
an updated
what can we
request,
do
but
there?
I think that there is time. Tim can speak on that.
Well,
I mean,
let's let Tim
Yeah.
speak on
I
it.
hate to be pessimistic and negative, but I mean, you're dealing with a county that has a budget deficit, and you're talking about all these maybes and what ifs and that sort of thing. I mean, it may be you want to go through a municipal election in the fall and see what happens.
What happens?
well,
And if
that's,
there's, I mean, let me give you an example of where I guess I don't understand this, and maybe you can explain it, Mary Ann. But this issue about moving ballots around the building, I just don't.
We always do
But
our
here's what-
absentee ballots in
here's
the
what I-
basement.
Here's
Well,
what,
there.
yeah, but here's what I don't understand. Why can't you have, like, a Democrat and a Republican monitoring the ballots as they move around the building? Even if you have somebody with a camera following the person around, I just don't,
Well, that's the point. You can have, but here we don't have to have two people to do that.
yeah,
There,
no,
we're
but-
going to have two people
Which
to do
means
that.
somebody else isn't doing the work that they need to do in order to do
Right,
that.
but you have I mean, we have staff, I keep calling them seasonal staff, they're election season staff.
Well, that's why the budget may be, we may need additional seasonal staff.
Right.
We-
Okay, well, I mean, my only thought is, we got a county with a budget deficit. So you've got to be cognizant of that fact before you go back to the county and say, you know, we didn't get what we want, now we want more money.
Well, we were cognizant of that fact when Corrine managed to move things into our current budget so we could reduce our budget.
Okay.
You know, we tried to do that.
And, you know, it was a reasonable budget, I thought. It's just a question I have because I keep hearing about election security and I'm thinking it doesn't seem that complicated from the building we're moving into to maintain election security along
Well,
the ways that.
It just requires additional resources.
Yeah.
As Corrine has noted time and again, she and her staff can
It'll happen.
can take care of business in the new environment. But there will be changes in the operation that are dictated by the facility. And if there are expenses associated with that change in the operation, we need to identify them and we need to report them up the chain so that they understand the impact.
I understand that. I'm just saying, if you go to county management and say, maybe, possibly, what if this could happen without, you're going to get some pushback.
Right. So we have to have something concrete. We have to have a
Pushback.
specific need identified and a cost estimated for that if we're looking for a budget adjustment. And that's exactly what I would expect, you know, Corrine and Victoria and staff to do if they wanted to request additional resources to take care of it. One of the things that Corrine reminded me of was the fact that we have the small municipal election this year. Gives she and her staff an opportunity to figure out how to make it all work in the new space. And that if we kick this can down the road any further, they could well lose that opportunity. And considering the, you know, what I'm expecting the 2026 election to be incredibly complex. And so having an opportunity to sort of do a dry run with Weaverville and Woodfin,
Yeah, and I trust
It's
that
highly
Corrine and
beneficial.
staff can abstract that to what it would look like in a larger election as well. So not, you know, it may go pretty well for the smaller one, but they'll be watching just to understand what that means, what the impact would be in a larger elections, which would give us an opportunity then to, you know, I don't know what budget adjustments occur and how easy that is down the road, especially as was noted, our Buncombe County budget is you know, going to be stretched because of September 26th and other things that have occurred. So, you know, I'd like to hear from you if that seems like a reasonable approach to consider the budget adjustment in the future, or whether we needed to look at that now.
So there are some things that we could figure out now. I think really moving over there and figuring out what the new process is when we're going to really figure out the things that we need. But we have, even in the presentation that we have given to Avril already, we have, we call them contingency items. So it's, this might happen, we're not putting this in the budget, but we might
Look
have a
out,
second
right.
primary, we might have, and 382 consequences are a big one there. We were looking at signature verification. I think that's not gonna happen, but I'm not, you know, that was a thing that was going to be
was.
mandated with
Yeah.
no funding for all of the equipment. So, so I do think that there is room. It has always been the county commissioner's attitude for elections that if you need it, we will find it, and they have, you know, come through on that. But you are right, this is special times.
And we've drawn so much attention to this function, you know, over the past 6 months and certainly literally the past couple of weeks. You know, I hate to waste a perfectly good crisis.
I don't think it's wasted, my friend.
Just when I needed a
But move considerations were mentioned in that budget.
I don't think it's wasted. I think that county management has a better appreciation for the board and its role because of this.
And I believe that what Steve says too, if we really are intentional about continuing to educate and teach them our language, as well as us learning their language, that we're going to be in better shape down the road. So I think that, you know, this could be a beginning of something that could be better if we don't let the fire, we don't want this fire to burn out completely. I think the embers ought to stay there so that we've got enough energy to keep working on doing exactly what you said, be a better board and better stewards of the law, and continue to listen to our staff as well.
Thank you. Does anyone else have any questions or comments on the subject? I don't see any action required by this board. County management has made it clear that election services is expected to be moving the week of April 28th. And if they hear nothing more from this board on the subject, then
He'll know.
I expect that move to proceed. That said, there is a resolution that this board adopted recently that was forwarded to the county commissioners that still requires action. I will be following up with the county manager to make sure that that is taken care of one way or the other.
So what does that look like? What do you?
What we asked for in the resolution is to remain at 59
And
Woodfin.
so you will want to hear from county management that that is not going to occur. What does that mean?
I want the commissioners to say no.
Okay,
No, you gotta do
that's
what the
not-
county said.
okay,
Accountability.
yes.
Yeah, they ignored that resolution completely.
Right.
I don't know why things worked out in the manner they did. I do know that the county manager told us yesterday she had not seen either of the resolutions.
Okay. Tim would like to say something.
Mr. Love, excuse me, ladies and gentlemen, Assistant County Manager Tim Love is with us today. Mr. Love, thank you for coming. Just so you all know, Corrine reports to Mr. Love within the Button County government structure. And I appreciate him coming in here and listening to all this today.
Chair, Board of Elections, appreciate y'all for all that the work you do and just for allowing me to speak for just a moment. I
Sure.
wanted to allow y'all to speak and not chime in because it's not really my role to do that. Thank you. And Jake, I appreciate you sort of defining that relationship, but what I want to be very clear of is county commissioners, county manager, myself, we're all very clear on the role of the Board of Elections, that specific role that's been granted to you by the state. So I want to make sure that's very clear
Okay, good.
to all of you, because I don't think we've ever talked about it. What I also want to make very clear is that county commissioners can't speak for all of them. They're a board. I can speak for my boss, county manager Pender, because she asked me to specifically. What she wanted me to communicate to y'all and to those that are here specifically is the county management has an unwavering commitment to elections. And where I come from, we talk about, words and deeds, and I think the deeds prove that. It wasn't just, we support you. It's here are resources to make sure that we can be as successful as possible. I know that the staff of elections under Corrine's leadership are the ones doing the real work, but I think it's been very true that our folks have been able to support. And so I think you'll continue to see that from us. And so I hope that, the communication in this particular situation, we did not realize the necessity to speak more directly to you, and that's something that we learned from. And I think Jake and Marianne, you've both heard from my boss directly on that issue, who extended her apologies on that. And
She did.
I think I'll line up and fall on that sword as well. We didn't know, but we know now, and so that's something that we can work from. And so I don't want you to take all the good work that we've done together and sort of, throw it out with the bathwater, if you know the expression. What I'd also say, Corrine's identified a handful of issues. I want to be very clear. Corrine and I haven't, colluded or talked about any of her comments today.
Mhm.
You know, she did those independently, which I know is something that's important to this board. However, I do know that we will do the best that we can to meet those needs. And what I would ask from y'all and Corrine and anybody that, my kids, anybody in my life, you know, as you identify a need, we'll do the best to meet it. If it's statutory, you know that we have to, right? There are other things that may be more subjective, and we'll work through those things. And I hope that y'all will give us the grace to do that. And so I've heard those requirements. We'll work through them. Marianne, please don't take that we didn't consider them or that we threw them away or didn't value creating photo IDs. That's certainly not the case. If it doesn't fit in the building, we got to figure out how to get it to fit in the building, right? And so you're hearing it from me.
Okay.
This is an important item on my list. I appreciate the discussion. I would also say, you know, we see frequently throughout our years that we have budget implications throughout the year. Things change.
Mm-hmm.
And you've seen publicly our board, you know, react to that and approve, you know, hiring more paramedics, hiring 911 dispatchers. I don't think it would be any different in the case of elections because we value that function and recognize how important it is. So I'll pause. I've done enough.
Mr. Love, appreciate your attendance and appreciate your support. I know, this whole board knows how well the county has supported this operation. And it's one of the reasons that we have such strong election performance in Buncombe County. You know, in the wake of that hurricane, we had amazing performance. And so much of that was attributable to the support that we get from county management as well as from other county departments, and we appreciate it a great deal.
Mr. Quinn,
Mr. Aceto.
before Mr. Love sits down, a lot of our conversation is hinged around communication.
Right.
This board communicated with the county commissioners with 2 pieces of paper. 2 sides, printed on both sides. This is a great opportunity to start the communication off in with actions. And that is, what happened to those pieces of paper? And will they be responded to in a very specific way? Even if this board can send a resolution and it just goes into the air and it floats down from the 5th floor, you know, our communication problems have not been addressed. So if the commissioners, I offer them this opportunity, if your supervisors are serious, start with those pieces of paper. Let's get a specific response, even if it's go pound sand. Okay? I mean, that's, you know, respectfully. Pound sand.
Hopefully.
But I am serious about this. You know, it distressed me more than anything to find out that the county manager said, well, I never saw it. What the heck does that mean? So let's start with that one.
Very well. And I appreciate you bringing that up. It was something I wanted to remark about, and I didn't. You should absolutely expect a response from our board in some fashion, no doubt. I can confirm, you know, those documents were received and shared with commission. They were sent to our clerk of the board, and so there is a record of that. And so we'll make sure that's taken care of. It's on my action item list, but I appreciate you keeping me accountable on that.
Thank you. And thank you, Mr. Aceto.
Thank you very much.
Does anyone have any more questions or comments on the subject?
One more comment, and that
Please.
is, since we're talking about documents, we do have a memorandum of understanding with the county,
Correct.
which I think it would be a good idea to have that reviewed by the county, because I'm not sure, since that happened in 2022, I believe it was.
Correct.
I'm not sure if the current commissioners or current staff are even aware of it. So.
Thank you, Marianne. I think that you raise a good point. If nothing else, I think this board needs to sit down, review the MOU, and determine its level of comfort with it. Mm-hmm. And I think we should do that at perhaps our next meeting.
Sounds good.
Speaking of which.
And,
There's one more.
and I just want to comment that that memorandum of understanding, the whole intent of it is us communicating.
Exactly.
So
Wow.
revisiting that as much as we
Me too.
want is good communicating.
You know what? Our 2 resolutions were all about communicating too. We're big on communicating here at the Board of Elections. All righty. Today is March the 5th. Oh, I'm sorry. Mr. Black, you have a question, comment?
Just a conceptual comment.
Please.
The devotional reading from Rosita combined with the fact that you all don't speak facility. Did they combine to say that the statute speaks in terms of funds so that this board makes the decision on the facilities that it finds acceptable?
I think that is a very reasonable inference, but there's nothing concrete.
Right.
And I think as this board proceeds, we have to talk about what makes the most sense for this board. And to do it in a way that is understandable to county government and that works with county government. But you raise a very good question. It doesn't say facilities, but I think that it implies it.
Yeah.
Well, that's the leadership piece, okay? Is that, we must take it on ourselves to articulate our obligations and our priorities in a way that they apply to the statute. So, because that's chicken. We're just a bunch of eggs, So that's why I say when I'm talking about a leadership piece is that we're doing the heavy lifting of trying to express that, which is very abstract, but it gets down to, like Jake says, concrete.
What we need to do is our own little version of numbered memos, where we take no. I mean, those numbered memos are so helpful because they take something that's amorphous and say, okay, A, B, C, D.
Sure.
We're gonna have to ask for a
Look at her
raise at the
face.
same time, right?
Well, sure. I mean, this is
They recommended one in that, so. They did. The state board recommended one in their proposed revisions. They said the state should give us a raise.
Hey, I'm gonna go right home and read that one.
okay, but you get a number memo, and then you get home. Then we have an argument, about the numbered memo and progress.
Right.
You got something to argue about. I mean, we can actually talk.
We get something to clarify.
Something to clarify. Something
And
that
we
needs
all
to be
end up
clarified.
reading off the same page. And that's the benefit. And what we try to do in North Carolina is have all 100 counties read off the same page.
Yeah, man.
I just wanted to say one more thing about the.
Please, Mr. Schultz.
And I don't remember what the statute sign is about or the statute number for the
160.
funding.
16337.
16337.
163-4037.
37.
It's way over here.
If I see it, I can find it.
I have read it many times, but look, I mean, the way I read that and the way I think anybody's going to read that is, has the county commissioners given the Board of Elections the minimal funding necessary to carry out its functions in compliance with the law? It's not a grab bag of we need this, we need that.
Oh, no.
It's just going to be that's what I think the statute calls for. So anyway, what you may want to do, and I don't know that this even exists, is call people at the State Board of Elections. You know these people. I don't. I mean, I know their names. But just see if they've ever given some thought and have some memos, internal memos about what does a county, and it's going to be different from Graham County is going to have a different minimum requirement than Mecklenburg County, and Buncombe County is going to be in between that. But I'm sure over the years that the State Board of Elections has been around, and there may be a memo on their website that talks about this, but just what is the minimum necessary to carry for a county board of elections to carry out its functions, because that's going to be the baseline that you're working off of and trying to work up from that. That's my only point.
that is a continual topic of discussion across the state. The election standards, staffing, pay, facilities, and we do things so differently, and we are so pressed for time that we have just not been able to make that happen. I know it's also a topic at the EAC. I recently looked at it because budget asked us for some, if there were any staffing standards, and I wasn't able to find any. But it is something that keeps coming up, and there's kind of articles about election officials working too much, having too much overtime, the pressures, the job duties. It's not a clerical position anymore. And so this is a very big topic that could be very useful in the field.
When is that district one?
28th of March.
March 28th.
Okay, so March 28th, we have
Yep.
an opportunity to put
Bring
that
this up.
right in front of all of our peer counties,
a
all
good
of
point.
our neighboring counties, and start a discussion.
Yep, and that's the NCADE, which is the North Carolina Association for Directors of Elections. And so that's statewide, and also the board association will be there. That is not a very active association right now, but it's also statewide. And those are both organizations who can take on projects like that. They're best fit for that.
I have a question from the audience.
Howard?
I'm not going to do a scripture reading, I will just say that you can lead a horse to water, but you cannot make it drink. I was contacted by one of the commissioners the day before their meeting. Their story was entirely different from what I have heard here. And
Not
we
surprised.
exchanged notes. And then I asked, have you seen the resolution that they sent? It was a long silence. And this commissioner says, I haven't gotten anything. Then they went back and they looked and said, oh, here it is, I should read that before I go to the meeting. You can send the two pieces
Yeah.
of paper, printed on the back and the front, but if they don't read it, it doesn't do me any good.
Yeah.
Thank you. You're right, it doesn't do
And I'm very upset.
any good.
Last Indian.
No, you're not.
I appreciate your concern
Yeah.
about the effectiveness of communications in our space. And I appreciate the comments that you made last night.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here, and thank you
I
for
don't
caring.
do that very often, and I hate to do it, so I'm disappointed that it didn't help.
And, well, no, but it did. You put a spotlight on something that needs critical attention, and that is improving our communications. Thank you for articulating that for everybody to hear. That's important. And we deeply appreciate your having the courage to stand up at the mic and say it. Thank you.
Absolutely.
We have a great community that supports what we do. We appreciate it a great deal here at the Board of Elections. You guys are wonderful. But enough of this love fest.
Yeah.
No, I don't mean Mr. Love here. We do have to schedule our next meeting. And, yeah. What do you think, Mary Ann?
Ooh.
Pull out your calendars. That's the last agenda item, y'all. Today is March the 5th.
Tuesday, April 8th.
I like that. I like that for a number of reasons. First of all,
No, wait.
oh, no, can do.
Yeah.
15th?
Of April?
Tax day.
Tax day?
Oh, you've already done your taxes by the 15th. And if you haven't, let me know. I'll
It's
be out.
to be extended anyway.
Push back.
Yeah.
Push back to when?
The tax, that time?
That's my understanding.
Are you serious?
Push back to when?
May 1st.
Cool.
Oh,
I
oh,
like it.
Oh, right. There's been some staffing reductions at the Internal Revenue
Oh,
Service.
yeah.
You gotta be realistic, right? Well, that's good. That's good.
Disaster.
Believe you.
For
Is April
our state,
15th good for
for
everybody?
us.
April
April
15th?
15th works.
Yes, yes, yes.
Or do you want to do it a different day in the first week of
Well,
April so
I-
we can review the conference we just went to?
No.
Clear communication.
Actually, I'm looking at my calendar and I'm thinking, I want Maggie Fox to have a chance to get her feet back underneath her in the
true.
office
Yeah.
before we have a meeting.
Well, it is very interesting that she will be off on April 15th.
Oh, get out of here.
She has vacation planned.
After taking a month off, huh?
Good deal.
I think
know
she's
I'm only
doing a
joking,
little
yeah.
bit of work
Yeah.
right now. She is here that first week, but.
It's fine, whatever.
See, she's here the first week.
Are you out all that first week?
You got it, Marion.
I am gone. I have a non-negotiable. I have to take my kids to Italy. So 6 to 12, 13, I'm gone. So, but you can have me prior to that. You
The
can
sec- told you
have
the
me
second.
after that.
Wait, what dates are you in Italy, Steve?
The 6th through what?
Well, I am non funciona 6 through the 12th. So,
Yeah,
uh,
That's what he said.
okay, that first week of April.
so yeah, if you did the first week in April, it's possible. But
It's either April Fool's or
April
the day
Fool's
after.
Day?
No, look at Wednesday.
Yeah, the 2nd.
well, April Fool's, I'm gone too. So sorry.
Okay, so it has to be the 3rd or the 4th.
Yeah.
Either of
We
those
could
work
do,
for
if
me.
we wanted Nikki here, I guess we could do some other day that week of the 5th, of the
Yeah.
14th.
3rd?
The 3rd or the 4th.
I can give you the 3rd. The
Oh,
4th
okay.
isn't good for me either.
3rd,
I got
3rd will
to
work.
get on an airplane, but I can give you April 3rd.
Okay, can everybody do Thursday?
April 2nd. I can give you April 2nd. Do you like April 2nd better?
I actually like April 2nd better,
Okay.
but,
Second's
Good
fine
for
with
April
me.
2nd.
Yeah, it's fine.
April 2nd? April 2nd, good. We give Negi a day to get reacclimated and then put her on the hot seat. All right, so the next meeting will be at 3:30 on April 2nd, 2025, still at 59 Woodfin Place. And members of the audience, thank you for being so patient with us through an hour and a half. Does anyone have any questions or comments before we adjourn today? Thanks again for coming in. Do appreciate it. If there's no more business to come before this board today, and it seems there isn't, the meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everybody, and we will see you on April the 2nd.